My thoughts are that he's basically very likely being backed by either an organization or a person. So I'll say this: I do not think that Will Duffy's being honest in this endeavor. He says as though he plays it off, Flow State, as if he just discovered that there were these people called flat earthers in 2021, and that he then came up on this with this so-called experiment on his own to go to Antarctica. But when you look into his background and who he's associated with, that strains credibility for multiple reasons. So my speculation is that this is kind of like a setup to basically bring down the flat earth community, or, make us look bad, like a hit piece in some ways. The other weird thing about this Will Duffy and the Bob Enyard and the likes is that they're a very particular type of mindset that's very strange to me, because they're actually young earth creationists. So they believe in creation. They believe the earth is 6,000 years old, like the Bible says. But at the same time, they believe in the vastness of the universe, and that we went to the moon and that we can go to space, and that there's all these infinite galaxies and exoplanets, which is the strangest of all positions to me, because I could understand being like a flat earther who believes in creation on one side. And then I could understand the mindset of somebody who's, let's say, an atheist or an agnostic who believes in the Big Bang and space, because I can kind of see the way they think. But what I really can't comprehend is the Will Duffys of the world, who want to talk about a young earth creationist ideology, but yet still believe in space and fight so hard for it.
Because you're looking for a unified, internally coherent ideology, and not for a tool to disorient stupid people.
Right, because, and Will Duffy has stated this when he's in his moments of greater candor, basically that he feels as though flat earth makes Christians look stupid. So his whole thing is, and he said this, so I don't mind paraphrasing, basically that, he doesn't want people to be dissuaded from Christianity because of like all the dumb flat earthers, quote unquote. Right. So that's his whole thing, is like, and I don't think it's just Will Duffy, because there's, I would say within the last 2 or 3 years, more and more prominent pastors have actively come out against the flat earth topic, because I think they're being challenged in their churches by their parishioners. And I think it affects their grift. I'm just going to say it. Like, I think it just affects their grift, because people are now going away from, their philosophy of, well, yeah, it's Jesus and creation, but still believe the astronauts, believe NASA. It affects their bottom line, I think. So now there's this big crusade to muddy up the flat earth waters, so to speak, and try to make flat earthers look bad. So they straw man the flat earth topic. They pick basically useful idiots like Mr. Jeran Campanella, and they draw them into their little schemes. And it's an obvious hit piece. So that's basically it. But I think that's what it is. They think flat earth makes Christianity look bad, because many Christians are adopting this mindset of a created world that's level. So I don't think he's working alone. This seems to be organized, called a conspiracy of sorts, in the true word of conspiracy. And I think they know damn well what that sun does in Antarctica, and the duper's delight is all over his face and every other anti-flat earther. They know what goes on in Antarctica. Will Duffy himself admitted that he spoke to the owners of this Antarctic expedition company, and he brought up this idea of bringing flat earthers down there to watch the sun, and they just laughed. And then when he was directly asked if he inquired about the sun, he specifically said, no, I did not inquire about the sun. I think he was being deceptive there, at least somewhat. Maybe he didn't actively inquire, but that doesn't preclude somebody else from inquiring. I think they know damn well what the sun does down there. And I think Will Duffy has shown himself to be dishonest throughout this endeavor. If people in his church and churches all around the world are coming up to their pastors and they're saying, how come we're not talking about flat earth? Or they're basically causing trouble amongst the parishioners with this flat earth topic. I have video of many pastors at this point at the pulpit actively decrying flat earth defending heliocentricity, defending the government, and mocking flat Earth and actively banning it from discussion amongst their parishioners. Flat Earth topic is a problem for these Christian pastors. That's the basics of it. And Will Duffy's been nominated to like deal with it. This has all the fingerprints of an organized hit against the idea of flat Earth. And imagine how this is going to be presented to, through mass media to the population at large. This is obvious what's happening. Whitsitt has taken a big hit in my book regarding this whole thing, but not nearly to the level as one Mr. Jeran Campanella, who is completely discredited. And I would agree, he's a glober at this point. Look, anybody who's still watching or adhering to Jeran at this point, just know you're watching a glober. You're no longer on a Flat Earthers channel. Just know that. And you're a joke if you want to be a Jeran apologist at this point. As for Whitsitt, in my book, Non Chiquetta, I'm willing to leave the door open for Whitsitt in terms of my, my discernment regarding him. I think, if I'm to be frank, Whitsitt's ego and his arrogance has caught up to him. And I think this is going to be a problem for him moving into the future, along with the fact that he is adhering to ideas regarding gravity that are completely unfounded. And I want to finish, I'll land the plane with this. This is the problem with both Whitsitt and Jeran in their adherence to an unevidenced model of this world, their continued propagation of this unsubstantiated model, because we're learning in real time the consequences of this. Whether you want to call it the pizza pan with the dome, the circling sun over the AE map, or their ludicrous ideas of so-called gravity, we're watching it unravel here. And this is why we need to keep our concepts of this earth rooted in substantiated, demonstrable reality, not theories and conjecture and concepts. Because the ultimate irony is our flat earth, quote unquote, leaders who have been so arrogant as to promote their unevidenced theories regarding this earth are now about to put the biggest egg that could possibly be placed on all their faces and discredit the flat earth in front of the world. And if you think for 1 second that Will Duffy is going down there with any doubt regarding what that sun is going to do, well, you're more naive than maybe anybody that I could even think of. It could only be understood in my mind from the point of view that they have an agenda. When there's financial interests in things, you have to look and see how it muddies the waters. If you are let's say a prosperity gospel type of church, or you have some type of
Hallelujah,
some doctrine, some ideology regarding your take on the gospel, and you're presenting that to your church, you're now vested in that because your livelihood likely comes from that. Now, I know Will Duffy mentioned that he receives no salary from his position as pastor of this church, but we don't know what other interest he has in this, and we don't know what his future interests are in this. I'd imagine he's not spending his time for nothing. So we have to look and see what their interests are. So they obviously have a gospel that presents a young creationist earth, but they have to reconcile that, because how does that gospel look to the new Christian coming up? So where's the money come from in Christianity? Well, here's what you're going to want. You're going to want young couples who are married and have kids and typically have, finances that they could expend on their church, whether it's 10% tithing or whatever. So, well, how do you get them in the door? Telling them that the earth is flat and it was created, well, that might be a tough sell to the average Gen Z or, millennial family. Okay. But if you present the more, let's say, vanilla version of truth and say, well, look, yeah, God did create everything, but it doesn't mean that we can't still go to the moon and go to Mars, and it still it still doesn't mean that the nearest star isn't 25 million miles, a trillion miles away. See, it just is convenient. So that's my take, is that the ideology adopted by Will Duffy and Bob Enyart is convenient for their interest regarding their church. It enables them to present a Christian-based philosophy, but still with a scientific, quote unquote, rationale that merely appeals to, let's say, a vast number of people. So I think there is an ideology of convenience. And I think what you notice with flow state is what many of us with discernment noticed regarding Will Duffy, is he comes off to be completely insincere, like a total snake oil salesman. His body movements, his twitchy movements, and I can see him presenting a calm exterior, but it's like we talked about the other day. His body language gives it away to me completely. And this is how they operate. And from the flat earth side, I can make the same argument that when finances are involved and certain people conveniently start to alter their beliefs, their understandings to accommodate their ability to achieve and maintain these finances. So if you're Jeran and you've been a so-called flat earther for the last 9 years and you've come up to a brick wall and you're going to consistently do reefer roulette with a bunch of fucking degenerates that nobody watches, relatively speaking, to your 150,000 subscribers, and you're realizing that this flat earth thing really is not benefiting you and your worldly needs and desires as much as you would like, well, I just find it awfully convenient that all of a sudden you're going to make statements like what the sun does in Antarctica means regarding the topography of the world, when Jeran states that there is no way you can have a flat earth and a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. So I guess my point is, no matter which side of this topic one finds themselves, the idea of what one regards as truth seemingly becomes very associated with one's financial return. As far as this final experiment, Jeran has been approached by a number of people, including myself and Nachiketa and multiple others. It's all on record regarding this so-called final experiment. So Jeran is going into this with eyes wide open. And again, he's made his stance on it extremely clear on this. So Jeran's going to be a glober in how many months until December? Which means he's a glober already. And the people who still find themselves at his channel, you guys are very sad. It's very sad at this point. And again, this goes back to, are you interested in true things or just cult of personality? Or Jeran somehow has the most subscribers, so that makes him what? I want everybody to really think about this. What legitimacy does Jeran have at this point beyond his subscriber numbers? He doesn't even get that many views relative to his subscribers. And Jeran admitted to me when I interviewed him on my channel, and you could find it, that his channel is quote unquote dead. And it is dead. Have you seen the content that he's been producing lately? It's unwatchable. He did an almost 6-hour hit piece on me, which got this all started, if anybody wants to know, that was almost unwatchable for me. And it was about me. It was tedious and boring and boorish. So I think Jeran sees the writing on the wall. He knows that this is going nowhere for him financially. And just like Bro Sanchez said, Jeran, much like Cyrus from the Matrix, knows the stake is fake. He knows the Matrix is fake, but he's choosing to go right back on in because he realized what the real world is like. It's not all fucking sunshine and lollipops. Just like the Matrix, you have to eat gruel. Your clothes have holes in them. So if you're going to sit back and somehow come to me about Jeran and be a Jeran apologist, For what? I don't care if somebody's been in this movement for 10 minutes or 10 years. Jeran has discredited himself, and anybody with discernment sees that. Plain and simple. It's a joke at this point. It really is. And it's going to become more clear as time goes on. You guys want to be friends with people. You want to have your little friends community. So you're going to sell out that everything that you hold as true to latch on to somebody for clout. This is a joke. But here's the thing. I think people will realize it. I really think they do. And I think Jeran's done. I think he's finished. And I think that's why he's doing his globe flip. Guys, Jeran's a glober. Plain and simple. There's no other way to put it. He's a glober. Jeran is like one of the lowest people I could ever even imagine now. He's one of the lowest people I could ever. And like I said, he's choosing to go back into the matrix, which means he's selling himself out. And all of you people that have followed him for all these years and pathetically want to continue to defend him and advocate an apology and be an apologist for Jeran, you're pathetic at this point. He has sold you and everybody else out. And anybody who's associated with them will be looked at with extreme scrutiny. This is a joke. This is a clown show. Jeran is a complete and utter fraud. What are people so afraid of? What? Like I said, nobody watches Jeran, relatively speaking. So even if that's what you're worried about, let that go. Okay, so let's get that off the table. Oh, you're friends with Jeran. Really? Are you friends with Jeran? Do you guys know Jeran? I don't know Jeran, but guess what? I know a lot more about Jeran than almost everybody listening to me does, okay? And I'll just leave it there because I like to keep things above the belt. I'll put it this way. Jeran is not a good man or a good person. He's one of the lowest people you could ever imagine. Grimy, scummy, and disgusting. On top of his obviously flawed logic. Let me ask you, without calling people's names out who are listening right now, when Jeran does his final globe flip, are you still going to be saying the same thing that you are now? When Jeran gets 1 million subscribers for being the most prominent anti-flat earther, are you still going to be saying the same things? This is where it's going. Plain and simple. If you can't see it, that's not your problem. I can see things like this. I sniffed Jeran out a long time ago. He has shown himself. It's obvious with his own words multiple times. So continue on the side that you're on. You're all going to look foolish. Or maybe you don't care about truth. Maybe you just care about being on the popular guy's channel who has the most subs, who ironically nobody watches his bullshit content because it's exceedingly boring. Yeah. And I want to put like the people in the chat saying, you are totally afraid of the 24-hour sun. No faith in what you believe. This shows how low your discernment is. It's the complete opposite. We're the ones who understand that the earth is level regardless of the sun in Antarctica and what it may or may not do. It is your hero Jeran that has the issue. This reeks of a organized conspiracy from the top down. Not only is it, regarding this Will Duffy character and his known associates, but also this Antarctic expedition and their connections to space companies, space exploration and tourism, at least espoused, and etc. This is a complete joke. It's a crap show. It's the Jeran apologists that get me because they're discrediting themselves. They're the ones that are worse than anything. Okay, Jeran's going to do what he's going to do. He's a scumball, flat out. But all you people apologizing for him, you useful idiots, you really got to start thinking about the decisions you're making, how you spend your time, your identity, who you connect your identity with, how you define yourself. It's going to be around Jeran. Again, Will Duffy knows exactly what that sun does down there. How people don't understand that. The duping delight is all over him. He's extremely gleeful that his plan is going exactly as planned. And this is going to be spun 10 times worse than Behind the Curve. 10 times. Don't be surprised.
I have more respect for Will Duffy than I have for Jeran. I tell you that much.
Yeah, that makes two of us, Notch. Notch. Jeran is one of the lowest people I could ever imagine. Jeran to me is as low as it gets in terms of humanity. You know, for all the apologists out there who just look from the outside and they want to keep making excuses for people because they don't want their fantasies to be basically shit all over regarding people they look up to. Just listen to the reality of what's going on with some of these things. Try to get beyond your biases and look who these people are. They've shown themselves to be people of very low integrity, low moral standing. And to all the flat earthers listening right now who are making your comments, you know, I'm going to ask this question. Do you really think that they're bringing Jeran and Witsit down to Antarctica to debunk the globe? Do you really think that's going to be the outcome? That they're going to watch the sunset and the whole world now is going to realize that the globe is bullshit? You have to think, people. There's the people now who are consistently saying, well, I don't know what the sun's going to do, and let's wait, or I don't think whatever's going to happen down there, just know this. They're not going to bring Jeran and Witsit down there to fucking prove flat earth. You got to get your heads on straight. You fucking people are really, really naive. You know, some people want to say Jeran was a plant from the beginning. Well, maybe we'll never know, but what do their actions tell us now? People can always be turned. It doesn't mean, the men in black come to you with a bunch of money in bags and say, show for the globe. If I had to guess, my psychological breakdown on Jeran is he realized that the flat earth thing is not bringing a livelihood to him and his family. He's somewhat frustrated because people like Z and Nachiketa could come on with a fraction of his subscribers and get pretty much a big chunk of the listeners relative to when he streams. I mean, the numbers don't lie. And I think he's in some way frustrated with the process. So I think in somebody like Jeran's mind, like I said, much like Cyrus from The Matrix, will look and basically sell himself back into the Matrix because he likely lacks any fucking degree of scruples or morals. So Jeran knows he's done the experiments himself. He's gone out there with, flashing mirrors and P900s and P1000s, and he's been around a long time. He knows like everything I was trying to explain to Sasquatch about rail guns and how the Nile River or any long river can't exist on a globe. He knows that the Suez Canal on its face debunks the globe, much less long distance observation, electrostatics over long distance, etc., etc. Jeran knows all these things, which show that physically this world is level and horizontal. But now he's basically saying that some optical observation of the sky somehow overrules and debunks all those physical measurements. He knows better than that. I think Jeran knows exactly what he's doing at this point. I see right through Jeran. He's setting everybody up like bowling pins, and he wants to just bring his whole audience along with him. Right. And I want to say this to anybody listening, who want to say, oh, why are they talking about? Jeran is about to go to Antarctica in 3 months, witness a 24-hour sun, and then do a globe flip and become the biggest glober on YouTube. And Jake, that's when the money, mark my words. And Jake, that's when the money's really going to come in. Just know you heard it here first, Laura.
No way he's gonna become a glober.
Just like you watched me destroy, like you watched me destroy him in that debate Mark my words. He's going to do a globe flip. He's going
Jeran's
to be
gonna
bigger than
wait,
Nicktoon. He's going to be bigger than all of them. That's
No,
why he's flopping his
no.
bro. That's why he's flopping his channel with retarded reefer roulette with those clowns that he comes on there with. Just like Jake said, he's just keeping his channel alive till he can do his globe flip. You guys think I'm joking? I assure you, I am not. Maybe there's going to be a lag time regarding the Jeran apologist because they can't understand his behavior because it really is incomprehensible from any rational perspective. So we're going to keep seeing this, but his words are his words. And you and I were very clear to have Jeran clarify his words to us because I think, Notch, if you're anything like me in this manner, if we're going to go out and take such a strong stance regarding a person, we want to make sure we have all the facts needed to do so. So you and I think we're very diligent with conversing with Jeran to really make sure that we have his perspective in concrete. So there's no doubt where he stands on this. You and I see that 100%. It's all on evidence. There's no escaping it. I have a highlight reel of Jeran saying this just because I knew there was going to be his residual apologists. But he's never going to be able to escape what he said. And that's why he's never going to be able to have a viable flat earth channel moving forward. And he's prepped it. He did a stream not long ago. I didn't watch it, but I could tell by the title. It was like, what is Jeranism? He's trying to present this to his crowd. So you did say he's trying to present this to his crowd to say, look, I'm not about the flat earth or anything. I'm about me and my discovery towards truth. You see, he's changing he's moving the goalposts.
moving the goalposts. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's moving the goalposts to say, well, this is what Jeranism is now, even though I was basically 98% of my content was flat earth for 10 years. This is what I am now. So I want to take my core audience who's going to continue to support me through membership and super chats and etc. And then realizing now that he's going to have let's be real, whether he flips or not, I don't know. But let's say he does do a globe flip. He instantaneously becomes very lucrative. McToon makes a lot of money on YouTube. McToon has thousands of members, Notch. Let's think about this for anybody listening. So if McToon has thousands of membership people on his just YouTube alone, you think fucking Jeran doesn't know this? He's been very cozy with these Globers for years now. He understands that if he flips, he will be the #1 anti-flat earther. He will be making bank because he knows all the arguments. His behavior of late is indicating to me where his stance is. He is not a flat earther anymore. Plain and simple. I'm not going to let Jeran go in front of the world and tell people that the earth can't be flat because he saw a fucking 24-hour sun in Antarctica. And it seems like Notch isn't going to let that happen either. So y'all can think what you want about it, man. We're not dividing anything. We're just standing on something that we feel is important. And the truth is naturally divisive, no matter what it is. I mean, anybody who purports to be a Christian, just look in your Bible. What do you think the truth does? This is a fundamental aspect of this reality. There's going to be divisions. There's not everyone's going to get along and sing Kumbaya. Now, that doesn't mean you can't build friendships on different levels, relationships. But you'd be a fool. One would be a fool to react with a certain degree of passivity in light of some of these recent events. So what? So did I divide Jeran when he went on and did a 5-hour meandering hit piece on me? And the reality is, even if he never did that hit piece, I'd still take the same stance I am against Jeran. I just probably would be a little bit less personally invested in it. These members of the FE community, they basically back themselves in a corner because they've consistently promoted an unevidenced model. You see, it wasn't enough for them to sit there and debunk the globe and talk about practical demonstration, actual physical reality. They had to start conjecturing things. They had to conjecture why, you know, we have this phenomena of, gravis, why things go down, why less dense things go up. See, they had to conjecture that without being supported. So they started talking about electrostatics. And then they had to conjecture what the sun was doing, how it does it, totally disregarding the celestial data that contraindicated their model all along. But no, they had to keep pushing it, likely because they were benefiting from it. People want to hear that. Okay, it's not a globe, then what is it? Oh, this guy's telling me what it is. Dave Weiss is telling me the sun circles around, and it's so easy. Well, the whole time, the other people, like we had Jacob here saying, look, it's not that easy, dude. That circling sun that you're saying, it doesn't work. Here's why. There's other factors that need to be considered. This is where people say, well, Z doesn't, ascribe to the AE map, or he doesn't think the sun circles. The AE map may be a representation of reality accurately. The sun may indeed circle, but the way we perceive the sun is certainly much more complicated than the way they presented it. There's many factors that were not accounted for years. Perspective being primary amongst those. The way you see the world, the optics of the world, is vastly different than the physical world. But Jeran and Dave and Austin were perfectly willing to promote their model because it benefited them. Well, now the chickens are coming home to roost, because as they pushed this model that lacked evidence and basically was debunked, well, now that model's being challenged, and they're all going to look like fools this December. So they're all going to get exactly what is due to them, because they abandoned demonstrated reality and applied physics for more theory and conjecture, because, again, arrogance and hubris. Why? Because they didn't want to go to Thanksgiving and be the dumb flat earthers who don't know why things go down and know about gravity. So they'd say, no. We just know, yeah, things go down and light and less than things go up. But it's because of our new gravity of electrostatics that still requires downward acceleration that's not evidenced. Well, you guys couldn't what? You couldn't take the ridicule? So you had to come up with more stories about the Earth, just like these psychopathic elites told us stories about the fucking impossible globe. You're no better than them. You just don't see it. Maybe slightly better, but still orders of magnitude away from people who are endeavoring in truth. Do you not have the courage? Do you not have the courage to look at the world for as it is and embrace reality, no matter how stupid you look and how much ridicule you're going to get? It's not easy going against consensus. So when you start to adopt more orthodoxy, this is what you get. And we're going to see it all play out in December.
And just replaying the video a little bit, the conversation between you and Jeran. And that really, I think, to me, really, that was like a real Achilles heel moment for Jeran. I mean, that just kind of broke the camel's back as far as, I mean, like there was suspicion and things were building up to that moment. And I was kind of reluctant to be like, well, maybe he's like, and he's been a flat earther for so long, blah, blah, blah. But then after that conversation, I'm like, fuck this. I'm all in at this point.
Well, I'm glad you played it, because people are still trying to back out and apologize for Jeran. He said what he said multiple times. And okay, so now, like you said, maybe he tried to walk it back yesterday. So then I guess I'm right. So he basically is admitting that I was right, but still in the beginning of his video called me Zenus, the head of the people who don't understand science and don't understand that the sun has to be a certain thing. So he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. Like, this is the kind of guy we're talking about. So which one is it, Jeran? Are you agreeing with me now because you realize they made you look like a fool? Or are you still taking the position that I don't know science and I'm the fool? See, and I don't know how people don't pick up on this guy. He's literally talking out of both sides of his mouth like a split-tongued snake that he is.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, like, I guess people have kind of a what else to say? It's a Stockholm syndrome, you know. I mean, they follow Jeran, and he's kind of a cool guy, and now he's like doing Reefer Fridays or something, and I mean, like, you know, people associate him to be cool, but like, you know, at the end of the day, you gotta be able to make sense. At the end of the day, at end of the day, you got to understand what you're talking about, and you know, Dell put him in his place, you put him in his place, but either it's not registering for him or he is in denial. It's got to be one of those two reasons, I'm guessing.
Well, okay, let's play this out like as a thought experiment. So, okay, so Jeran goes, and let's say he and Austin witnessed the 24-hour sun. Where does Jeran go from there? Where does he go? And if Jeran adopts the position that I was presenting to him, where he's still going to remain a flat earther, will he apologize to me formally? Will he get out in front of all his listeners and say, hey, fucking Z was right and I was an asshole? Or is he going to still play some other weird angle? So that's what I don't understand about this guy. So, okay, Jeran, you're backtracking now. So you're taking my position as you're vilifying me. And I wasn't going to come up today, but when you played Jeran's, because I don't watch him, I can't stand listening to the guy. When the first thing he did in his video was mention me and call me Zenus, I said, oh, he's not going to let this go. Like the guy doesn't know when he's been beaten to shut the F up. He's just going to keep lighting more fires under my behind to keep going at him. So I wasn't going to come up here today and talk about it, but the guy can't keep my name out of his mouth. So
But you're a
I
leader.
guess,
You're a leader of a cult now, according to Jeran. You know, like that he said something to the effect that you're the leader of that movement or something to that effect, right?
yeah, exactly. Which is funny because I've been live on my channel one time in the last 5 months, but I'm leading a cult from behind the scenes, I guess. Oh God, he's so reviling in so many ways. And how about the Christy Lee dolls revelation? Jeran, listen, buddy, if you're listening, because I know you are, because you're obsessed and you're a fucking loser, I can sink you in so many ways, Jeran, that you don't even understand. I've gone easy on you, man. I've kept it to the topics about, the FE topic, how ludicrous you are with your lack of understanding and your inability to think. I've kept it
Yeah.
above board with you, man. And even when
We've been very gentlemanly, actually. We have been very
yes,
gentlemanly.
yes, very gentlemanly. And guys, if you just knew about, and this isn't look for people listening, this is an open secret for people who've kind of been around the community forever. All right. So just know like who you're dealing with Jeran. He's not a good person. He's the worst of the worst, really. And he's crazy. And Jeran, this is what you get, because I was just going to listen to Notch's show today. But you had to say my name right out of the gates, Jeran. Zenus is your name for me? Come on. That's worse than Pathetic Warrior. At least with Pathetic Warrior, he's a pathetic warrior. It kind of rhymes with pathetic. And we'll hit him with that. Zenus? That's insane. That's not even funny. Somebody said Jeran's living free in a lot of minds. No, whoever said that, no, we're living in Jeran's mind. That's what you guys don't understand. He's the guy with the big, huge YouTube channel who's going to Antarctica, apparently. But he's worried about me to the point where he can't stop talking about me. And he probably listens to every second of Nachiketa's show. So who's in whose mind? That's the reality of it. Because he shook.
Yeah.
Notch, we shook him,
yeah.
Notch.
Yeah, he's shook. It's all right. I mean, it's okay to be shook. But I mean, like you were asking before about, what's the logical conclusion about all this? Like, where is this headed? I mean, like you talked about it yesterday, and I am in agreement with you. I mean, and the thing is, the rhetoric, at least from what I heard, Jeran said, from his latest podcast. He was basically saying like he's getting away from, well, Earth cannot be flat, but he's now kind of shifting the language to, well, the AE map cannot be correct, and this is something that Austin said as well. So they are more like more in agreement with each other now than before, because like before, like Jaren was in his own kind of delusional state where he's like, well, Earth cannot be flat if he sees the 24-hour sun, and then people like Dave Weiss is coming out and kind of being an apologetic for Jaren, and it's like, well, he is so sure that Jaren is so sure that he won't see the 24-hour sun, he's just being audacious, right? And then Austin, with his interview with Will Duffy, Austin was basically, well, even if I do see the 24-hour sun, I'm not going to become a glober right away, but that would refute the AE map. And I was trying to decipher what he meant by that kind of a statement. Like, what does he mean by that? That would dispute the AE map, because like the Earth is still level no matter what. So are we going to have to go to this like stereographic like virtual reality map? Is that the map we're going to have to go with? I mean, what are your thoughts?
I'll just say, well, first off, if Jeran is backtracking, he's basically then agreeing with my point during the debate. So, Jeran, I will be expecting your public apology, or at least some kind of, I don't know, acknowledgement that I was correct and you were wrong. So if you're going to adopt the position that I was presenting to you, Mr. Campanella, you should acknowledge it publicly. But you did the opposite. You basically attacked me again in the beginning of your video yesterday. But then what? Now you're admitting that I was right? So this is the kind of person we're talking about. Now, okay, if you want to get technical, what does it debunk? It only debunks the model. So it doesn't have to be about the map or the sun. It's okay. So you know how there's a heliocentric model, and it depends on certain things, because the model, it has multiple factors that all have to work in coordination with each other. And if one of the factors is debunked, then the model goes down. It's the same situation here. They built a flat Earth model. So if anything, it's a debunk of their model, which is the same thing I've said to Jeran, and which you just played before I came up. It's the same thing I was saying to him. You're debunking the model that you hold, that you're somehow strawmanning every other flat earther into acting as if it's their model also. No, Jeran, that's your model. So that's the only thing you're debunking is your model. Their simplistic model consistently left out the idea of perspective. All right. And that was the original issue I found with their model, is that they were still looking at the heavens or conjecturing the heavens in a linear fashion, as if what you see is what's there. And that's been my point consistently with all these people, very simply, because you don't have to make claims about the sky to point out that the optical world and the physical world are vastly different. They run off different geometry. Okay. And the way that we see is not what the world is. So you could just boil it down to, there's a fundamental difference between optics and physics. So when you look at the sky, as you and I and others have been consistently pointing out, you cannot triangulate the heavenly luminaries. It doesn't work, which means there's other factors in play here. And again, so we could imagine, posit, and conjecture the other factors. As I've said multiple times, perspective is the major factor. We have people talking about two suns. Crow was on here the other day, Notch, with Rose and me, saying that he is 100% sure there's a second sun and a third. That's not my claim. I'm just saying what Crow claimed. So there's a lot of possibilities of what could be going on in the heavens, man. That's the point. But what Jeran did is he constructed a model. He adhered to a model. He promoted a model. And then he came to a point where he said that if the celestial data disagrees with my model, well, then the Earth cannot be flat. Evidenced with the clips that you played before I came up here. which people in the chat still today, people in your chat still today were being Jeran apologists. Well, no, we're never going to let go what Jeran has said multiple times. Just because he backtracked yesterday, that doesn't mean anything. Because I think, as we were conjecturing previously, I think he backtracked because a couple of his people got on the phone with him and basically said, "What are you doing?" So he had to backtrack a bit. But I still don't think that's going to change what's going to happen when they do see the 24-hour sun. I still think Jeran's going to do his globe flip. I don't think, because he's going to have to come back and he's going to have to say, "Okay, Z, you were right, dude. You were right, Z, and Nachiketa, you were right, and I was wrong. And let's move forward." Because unless he publicly comes and does that, I see no other way out for him. It's just, and not just to me and you, to everybody else who he's gaslighted over these past months. Because he's gaslighted everybody to say, like you played, well, how could the sun be in Australia but be Antarctica? It means the Earth can't. He gaslighted people for months. So, okay, Jeran, you're a coward and you're backtracking, but maybe don't be such a coward. Come out and admit that you were wrong and go into this thing. And then maybe somebody like me, because I guess I'm the leader of the Zenus community, me and all my acolytes could maybe wish you well on your trip and have a better feeling about it and not think a certain way. So, but again, back to the technical aspects of this thing, you know, it just debunks a model. So who cares? It's so simple for people who get this, man. The sun could, the sky could be anything. Jeran's basically, he's basically had the mindset of a glober all along, because he still has like no like spirituality to his belief set or his mindset, you know, and he doesn't appear to have an idea of like energy consciousness. I think he's still looking at this world as like particles, and he reveres science in some way. He keeps going back to quote unquote science. Mr. Campanella, just if you are listening, as I know you are, so I'll speak directly to you. I have extensive experience in the world of research and quote unquote science. You have none. I don't talk about it because I don't have to, because I use logic and reasoning. I don't need to talk about my experience and appeal to my authority. But rest assured, Jeran, I have plenty of experience in that realm. You have zero, which I think is the psychology behind this Notch, because he feels inferior to people like me and others. So he wants to be like his own little pseudoscientist, and he is woefully unprepared for that endeavor.
Yes, we do observe the sun. Yes, we do get heat from it. Yes, it does seem to light up various places. How it's doing so, and how it's able to, have the 24-hour sun up in Alaska and in the Arctic area, and then potentially, I say potentially, show a 24-hour sun in the south. Again, that doesn't refute the levelness of the Earth. On the other hand, though, too, at least from the rhetoric that I have heard, Jeran was talking about, he was saying to the effect that, well, if I see the sunset in Antarctica, then I am going to eat whole piece of the pie and I'm not going to share it with anybody else. Something to that effect. And that made me think that, like, in either direction that is going to happen, Jeran more or less is thinking to himself that he's going to position himself to gain from either position. He's going to gain from the position of the sun setting and then proving the earth is flat, and then emerging from this whole situation as like a, somebody who was ballsy, who risked it, and against all odds, he went for it, with it, and he's gonna emerge as like the new king, quote unquote, new king of the flat Earth world. And if he doesn't, then he has a nice little cushion to kind of fall back on, which is that Earth cannot be flat, which means that it fits the globe model better, and then he can start gaslighting people in that direction. So either way, at least from I see him for what he is, but from his own perspective, like, he has an out either way, is the rhetoric that I'm hearing.
That's a good take, because in his mind, it's a win-win. because he'll just go whichever way is more beneficial, right? So like you said, exactly. If he goes down and they see the sunset, he's like a hero. You know what I mean? And then but if it doesn't, well, then he just basically shifts over to the globe side. He might not do it instantaneously like that day, but so in his mind, it's a win-win because it's really just about Jeran and getting all the, I don't know, publicity that he can, get the spotlight on him. So if he doesn't really care about the truth, you know, and this whole thing is completely insane. Look, we could find out if there's a sun in Antarctica, everybody, a 24-hour sun, without Jeran going there. Great, Jeran, go there and wits it. Fine. You guys are, I guess, I don't know, unscrupulous enough to accept that ticket from the likes of Will Duffy, who seems to be a snake, wolf in sheep's clothing. Go ahead. I don't think any person of honor would ever do that. And that's why I think a lot of us are probably disappointed with Austin. We all kind of knew Jeran was a snake, but I guess, Austin, that's what you get when you align yourself with these people. Let me talk about Austin Whitsitt. I, like many people, watched Austin on his rise. I remember when Austin was on the Flat Earth Discord, and I remember when Austin was, you know, first dipping his toe in with Bob Nodell and the Globebusters crew, and he started to kind of get his first little taste of attention because he's bright. And he was passionate about the subject, And I know Bob encouraged him. And then I, like everybody else, watched Austin go on his U.S. national tour. And I thought that was great. I know he's expressed some regrets regarding it because of maybe the way he may have handled a few of the detractors. But hey, who hasn't gone through that stage? You know, but you have to work through that. So I like everybody, or like many people, watched Austin progress. I remember, like, I watched him digitally when he met his wife. Now they have 2 kids. Like, we've been on this the whole time. So I've seen Austin progress into this, but Austin kind of made a devil's bargain with Jeran because Jeran promoted Austin. I remember Jeran, when Austin was in California, he walked out and gave Austin like the thumbs up, and he did like a little live. He didn't stay there long. I don't know. It might have been hot for you, Jeran. You're looking a little tubby lately. You're looking a little overweight, man. Maybe it was too hot for you. You couldn't stay out there and support your boy. Sue Finelli was out there. Much love, Sue. I saw Sue out there. But I remember. So Jeran kind of promoted Austin, and that's when Austin blew up, was after he did his tour. We all saw it. And kudos to you. But now you have this albatross around your neck because, okay, Austin, yeah, you got on InfoWars. You're prominent. You're debating people. You seem to be making somewhat of a living off of this to a greater or lesser extent. I don't know. I'm not pocket watching Austin. But now you have this affiliation with Jeran. So now you have to come out and say, oh, Jeran and I are boys. He's my homie, yo. Jeran's my homie. That's okay, Austin. That's your homie. This is who you hang out with, of all people. So again, short-term benefit. But so now Austin has to be involved in this whole thing, in this crap show. It actually puts also now either Austin has to eventually is going to have to distance himself from Jeran, or continue down this line where he walks the fence and continues to discredit himself with everybody. So, okay, great. Austin, your affiliation with Jeran and Globebusters got you where you are. Now what? Are you going to do a globe flip like your boy Jeran? This is sad, man. The Austin notch, and to anybody, the Austin thing is probably the most, the maybe heartbreaking of all this.
Yeah, I was going to use that word, heartbreaking.
Okay, so we're on the same lines then, because it's like, you know, they say Austin's the best and bright. He might be the best and brightest. That could be argued. I don't agree with his stance on electrostatics. He seems passionate and he seems highly intelligent. So the best and brightest got co-opted by Jeran right off the fucking rip. We have to watch this happen. It's disgusting. And look, Will Duffy, the evidence is there. He's trying to sink the flat earth because he's embarrassed that so many Christians are now flat earthers. Will Duffy has expressed that the flat earth topic is like an embarrassment to the Christian community because apparently many believing Christians are becoming flat earthers. And that's a problem for Will Duffy because it doesn't align with his dogma and his orthodoxy. And that's going to affect his bottom line financially with his church and many churches. So it seems as though the flat earth topic over the last 9 years has become a real issue for the Christian community, a real issue. Because guys, you understand, like these churches, it's not like a guy wants to be a pastor. No, they're organizations. When you join these different denominations, they're all like franchised affiliates, everybody. You have to look into the business behind the modern churchianity movement, these so-called Christians. This is about money, big time money, non-taxable money, which is big time money. My point is the flat earth topic has become a real problem for the Christians. So I think Will Duffy's kind of either nominated himself or has been selected to take on this issue for the church. To say, look, we got to make the flat earth look really bad to the normies. So it stops affecting our bottom line. He's admitted it. This is the motive behind this, everybody, which is still about money. Because it's a problem for these, well, especially for Will Duffy, because his doctrine is based around the heliocentric model. He's a New Earth creationist Christian who still believes in space. So it's the problem. So he has to do anything he can to so-called debunk this idea of the flat earth. So he's doing it the only way he knows how. And I agree with what Jake said yesterday. He's being coached probably primarily by McToon and then very likely other either entities, organizations, or people behind the scenes. And you have to realize that these churches, they have connections, secret societies, brotherhoods. So all these major, whether it's these prosperity gospel or these Baptist, Presbyterian, big mega churches that bring in millions and millions of dollars, you have to understand all the pastors and the leaders and elders, they're all involved in secret societies, secret organizations. This is well known. So I guess, Notch, what I'm trying to do is get people out of this naive mindset, because people project their own innocence and naivete onto others, and try to give them a grasp and understanding about the power brokers that are involved in this and the money that's involved in this.